All right, welcome scavengers to episode 19 of the Six Scale Scavengers podcast. This is Brian Fontaine, joined as always by my co-host and good friend, Chris Letty. Chris, how is it going this evening?
It's going great. Just ready to jump into the conversation. We've got just a few things to talk about. And again, we have a fellow Six Scale Scavengers collector group admin, and he's got another project going on. Our good friend Matt over here. What's going on, Matt?
Hey, thanks for having me, fellas, and everyone else. Super happy to be on. Man, what a great thing you guys have put together. This is awesome.
Well, we also figured, Matt, we needed to go 3 for 3 episodes in a row. And as Chris kind of alluded to, it was great timing. So we'll get into a little bit more about the project that you and Roy just started. And if anybody has already seen our YouTube channel and then probably already been tuning into our podcast RSS feed or on Spotify, you already know about the podcast. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, just super excited. We have had a little bit of a dry spell lately, and Chris, you and I were able to weather the storm a little bit. We got like way too much news, I know, to use Steve's phrase from the Scavengers Assemble Hangout this past week, is like he couldn't even keep up with it. And I know Allison was quick to remind him, Steve, just there's about 2 more weeks to go before we're going to get Avengers Endgame. Matt, you and I are going to pick Chris's brain in a little bit here to talk about Star Wars Celebration. Chris is getting on a jet plane tomorrow. Super jealous. I mean, we're all Star Wars fans at heart. Maybe Chris and I are a little bit more Marvel fans lately, but I mean, who doesn't love Star Wars? So we're going to be talking about that. And
Chris is getting on that MAX 8 airplane going over to Celebration. Oh, it's so exciting. Oh, yeah.
Private, man. Private jet.
That's the only way. Hey, we did find a way in the Scavengers budget here to make that happen. Our budget of $0 But yeah, so we've got news. Chris and I have a collection update for everybody. We're gonna talk to Chris about getting ready for Star Wars Celebration and some of his expectations. Matt, I know you and Roy are going to chat with him after he comes back, and we'll be able to pick his brain about that. I think it'll be a great opportunity for our listeners to kind of get an inside look. And Chris, I know you're going to have the opportunity to meet a few of our listeners out there. And then finally, it wouldn't be a podcast episode without an audio review. So Matt, we're going to be able to have you help us with a Cheer It M-Way MMS 403 review from, the Star Wars movie most of us love the most, or more than most, I should say, is in Star Wars Rogue One. So looking forward to that. Matt, you're the third of the 3 people on the Six Scale Scavengers team to join us, and last but not least by any means, Chris, let's just go over, Matt, a little bit of your background. So Matt, I'm ashamed to say that although once you joined our group and you were super active, like it's not really sticking out to me. So A, how did you find us? And then B, just kind of talk a little bit about your collecting background. And obviously you made a big enough impact that Chris and I noticed, and you've already put those talents to good use.
I'm trying to remember when I actually joined Six Scale Scavengers. So I've been collecting for a super long time, but once I kind of started, I kind of just dove in deep, and I got on all the other groups, and a lot of them were just so big and so full of not very nice people. I had enough experiences in that way that it's kind of looking around, and I think I was started to look for podcasts to listen to, because I noticed that there wasn't a lot of like Hot Toys content podcasts out there. So I think I started to look for that, and then I found you guys. And then did you guys start the Facebook group right after you started the podcast, or is it before? Do you remember how that worked?
Chris, I think it was like 4 or 5 episodes in, right?
Yeah.
You're more the historian amongst the two of us.
Yeah, it wasn't that far in, I think, because like we said, when Steve was on, I mean, he jumped on pretty much as soon as we created that group. I mean, about a month or so into having the podcast.
Yeah. So I think through listening to the podcast, I learned about the Facebook group starting, and then joined shortly after. And then kind of as we started discussing things on the group. I think I just randomly mentioned, hey, we might want to moderate some of this stuff at some point in time, because it's gonna grow, right? It's a good group. And so
Chris and I laughed at that, and we're like, that's funny. We're like, what, 20, 30 people at the time. And yeah, so I will give you credit for that, Matt. You were the original person to think about that. And you're like the first Avenger. You're the one that brought the team together here.
Yeah, well, it's great. And you know what? Kudos to you guys and Steve and Roy and everyone, that kind of works hard to make the group what it is, and all the people that are part of it. It's a really good group. And, I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed getting to know everybody, part as much as I can in the group, and the hangouts that we do, super fun. So, in terms of my collecting background, obviously I said I haven't been doing it for super long. I've always kind of collected certain things, especially Star Wars. Star Wars is kind of my big thing. Every time I went to Disneyland, I'd get like something Star Wars and bring it back and just kind of put it up. And then I get something else. And then eventually I started to, every now and then I started to see Hot Toys. I'm trying to remember where I saw them, but I started to see like, the different, the Luke figures they came out with and things like that. And I was like, my goodness, those are so beautiful and they cost so much money. There's no way I'm ever going to be able to, get into collecting those. That's ridiculous. And then the more I started getting into it, the more I was like, whoa, this is possible. And then I saw a Sideshow, and then I saw payment plans, and I was like, yep, now I'm hooked. And so it didn't take long. It's been a great ride. So I really enjoy it.
Do you remember what your first figure was, Matt?
I believe my first figure set was Marty and Doc from Back to the Future. So I love Back to the Future. And then I went from there and I think I spent way too much money on the Ghostbusters set. I think after that, which is the Blitzway set, which is a really an amazing set. And then I wasn't huge on collecting like just Star Wars so I started to collect some Marvel stuff. I started to collect, I think, Guardians of the Galaxy, those kind of figures. And then once I started into Star Wars, I realized that I'm being stupid collecting anything else, because that's all I really want. And, that's like when I look around, that's kind of what I want to see. I want to see Star Wars all around me. And so then that eventually just became get the next Star Wars figure. And then I started selling, especially once you guys started talking about selling your figures to kind of fund other purchases. I started to sell the Marvel stuff. And I think I only have like one left to get rid of, I believe, Star-Lord. And then I'll be Marvel free, I believe.
Oh, that one's going for good money right now. You might luck out.
Is it really?
With that. Yeah, it's pretty good. So right, Chris?
Yeah, it's a good time to sell them right before Endgame. Everybody's getting all psyched for that.
So you got 2 weeks, Matt. I usually like to spend other people's money, but then I also try to be everyone's guilty conscience here too. So
my goodness, if you could save me money, that would be fantastic. Like
I gotta work on that. I'm good at spending it. I also hate money, according to my list. So
no, it's good. I'm hoping I can sell that guy, and then my Star Wars addiction is real, and it's strong and it's deep. So I don't think that's going anywhere.
So we do have a figure to talk about with that, but before we get going into news, Matt, I know you'd mentioned the project that you and Roy have been working on for some time, and you guys approached me with it. We've been talking behind the scenes, and you guys finally made it happen. So let's not bury the lead anymore here, Matt. Let's kind of tell our listeners a little bit more about what to expect going forward from Rogue One 6th, which I love the name, by the way.
Yeah. Well, it took us a while to get to that one. But we
needed to make sure that the mouse lawyers weren't going to come knocking on our door.
Yeah. 1/6 is one word, so you can't come after us. And so I think Roy and I had been talking just about, Star Wars content and wanting to kind of contribute in some way. And you and Chris do such a great job with the podcast, but every now and then there's not as much Star Wars content as I would like, and as I think some other people would like, even though you guys are very, very good Star Wars fans and you love Star Wars. And so I just wanted to hear a little bit more of that stuff, because Brian, you've slowed down, correct, in collecting Star Wars?
Yeah, I'm super focused on it now. So Basically, it's Luke and Ray and a couple other odds and ends.
And then, Chris, you don't collect Star Wars at all, correct? Hot toy wise?
No, I do not. Not yet, anyway.
That hurts my heart.
Dude, I got so much vintage Star Wars stuff. So
I know you do. I know you collect plenty of Star Wars, but the best stuff, like obviously the vintage stuff's incredible, but the stuff that actually looks like the characters. I mean, if you look at the vintage stuff, I mean, they might as well like burnt a piece of plastic and then painted it. Like some of the vintage stuff is like really, really like hard to tell who they're trying to be. The Hot Toys, what they do is so amazing. So I just can't understand why there's no part of your like heart or mind or soul that wants to get into the Hot Toys Star Wars universe.
Okay. It's okay. So those things are in it. It's just the bank account is the one thing that's holding me back. So I got to keep things in check, but
I get that. So anyway, we want to, Ron and I were talking, we kind of wanted to hear a little bit more Star Wars stuff. So we decided, you know what, let's talk to Brian and Chris about maybe adding some content to the group and seeing if we could come up with something that's just Star Wars. We're not going to even talk about Marvel. We even thought about at some point about bleeping Marvel, like when we say the word, just so that it's like just Star Wars, like only Star Wars talk. And so we kind of, we came up with a show, and it's a cool, different type of format, right? It's pre-recorded. Roy and I kind of come up with what we want to talk about. We're going to have other people on at times, and it's pretty produced. Like we actually we do the Skype talk, talking to each other, and we actually like put in titles and we put in things we're talking about in pictures and things like that. And it's kind of more of a show, and it's a little less like the Hangouts and a little less, obviously it's video. So it's just a different piece of content we can add to the group.
We just launched it, and I haven't had the opportunity to listen / watch all the way through, but I kind of, skipped around and stuff. And like I said, you can get the audio version on our podcast feed, but I'd highly recommend, the YouTube channel. Like you said, it's probably best consumed, as the video, so you can see all the, the screen displays and stuff. And I think that's the one thing that I think the three of you guys have really brought to the table is really expanding our YouTube presence, because we just don't have one. I mean, we're not going to ever compete with doing reviews. I mean, there's great people out there like PJ, Paradox Nerd, who does just fantastic stuff. John Martino, Tashi Station. I mean, there's no reason to compete with that. We have our kind of our own little, our niche here, and our best way is to focus on that and help promote, our friends out there that are doing really good work.
Yeah, and I think another thing to be said is that I don't think we're trying to create some media empire, right? Like that's not our end goal. I think we're just trying to add a lot of really good content that hopefully everyone in the group enjoys. And, what everyone needs to understand too, is I actually enjoy doing it. So I think you guys enjoy doing this. Steve enjoys doing the Hangouts every other Friday, I believe. And it's just fun. It's fun to talk to other collectors. It's fun to, talk through news about Marvel and Star Wars and actually get to add your voice into that bit of the universe that is that fandom. So it's awesome.
It really is. So it's like our outlet. It's a way to interact with our fellow collectors. And I think it's just great. I watched your guys' video this morning and really enjoyed it. Love all the additions you have on there as far as visuals, your lists and all that. So I'm really looking forward to what you guys do going forward. And I'm looking forward to helping in any way possible. Yeah.
Quick question, man. Guys. Quick question. Offhand, I know this may take longer than it needs to take, and we don't have to do this, but offhand, do you guys have your own Star Wars list of the top of the movies, 1 to 10? Have you thought about it yet?
No, I had one at one point a couple months ago, Matt, and I thought about it, and I was looking at like kind of where you guys ranked it, but then it's like you have your kids. Like if you have multiple kids, it's like you're not going to sit there and rank your kids. You love them equally. Some days they might behave a little bit better than the other, but it's like, even I will say too, I'm like Steve. I'm kind of a prequel apologist. I really do. There's lots of things I enjoy about them. There's some things that actually, the things that bother me the most about those now when I go back and rewatch them, especially Phantom Menace. And I know we're coming up on the 20th anniversary here, which, boy, that makes me feel old because I think I was a junior in high school when that came out. It's like some of the CGI. I probably shouldn't admit this, but I'm going to. But I got definitely duped on April Fool's Day this year. Our good friend of ours, with Chris and mine, with Alan Voivod, who runs the Star Wars 7x7 or 7x7 podcast. He lives not far from us in the state of New Hampshire and does literally a daily podcast with Star Wars. So, man, if you're looking for that extra Star Wars content, check that out. But he had put a post and he's like, yeah, they're gonna do a special edition of the Phantom Menace. It's gonna be out in theaters, and it was so plausible that I'm like, yeah, that would be definitely something they should do to get the improve the CGI and stuff. Yeah, and then I was like, yeah, I got totally duped on that. So now it's on the air. I admitted it. I think that's one of the biggest things to do as a collector or as a person in general is just admit mistakes. And yeah, they got me there, but yeah.
What would you say is at least your number one? Do you have a number one, or is there a tie, or is it? I think this is something good for everyone. It's really interesting because Roy and I did this for the episode, the first inaugural episode, and it really is interesting to see kind of where you sit as a fan of Star Wars, right? It's not that it's good or bad in any way. It's just interesting to see if you prefer, the original trilogies, the prequel, like where you put the prequels, where you put some of the sequel stuff. It's really interesting. I think it would be really interesting to see where if people would do all of the Marvel movies, kind of where they would rank all the Marvel movies. And
that's getting harder and harder.
That's really hard because even the ones they don't particularly like are hard. All right, so Matt, this is totally off the cuff, and I didn't plan this at all, and I'll edit it afterwards so it sounds a lot better than it's going to now. But I would just say in no particular order, kind of a top. I'll do top 5 just because it's too hard to do the top 10. I don't think I would have any of the prequels in my top 5, but I do really like Revenge of the Sith. It's probably a little bit usually higher than most, but I don't have it in my top 5. I'm one of the people that really likes The Last Jedi, and I think that's the one that's going to really age well. I saw your list, Matt. It wasn't very high in yours, but I think that's one that will kind of age well with time. I think 10, 20 years from now, we're going to look back at that and realize that there was a lot of, in the moment, we're all really kind of ticked off about how some of the story direction went. But I think I wasn't really old enough to see Empire in the movie theater, but I think people would have had a lot of those same, if Empire came out in the year 2019 versus, 1980, I think people would look at it a lot differently. So there's a lot of that nostalgia there. So I'd say Last Jedi's in the top 5. Rogue One's definitely in the top 5. Return of the Jedi is that usually kind of rotates through. That's just the one that I watched the most growing up. This is kind of a hot take, but I like Empire, but I don't like it as much as a lot of people do. I still think it would probably be in my top 5. A New Hope's got to be there too. So I'm more of a original trilogy guy. And then, Force Awakens is right there, but I can watch all of them and really enjoy it because, like you said, Matt, it's Star
tough.
Wars.
It's tough to put a list together. Like when you actually get into it, it's kind of tough. But
let's see. Number 1, definitely Battle of Endor, then Caravan of Courage. No, I'm just kidding. No,
getting real deep.
Oh yeah,
deep cut.
Okay, so it's funny. Right after you guys did that, I went back and I realized I had a list that we had made last summer for whatever reason. And I'm going over it. I'm like, man, this thing needs some revisions. And for me, let's see, my top 5, starting at number 5, Solo at number 5, Rogue One at number 4, A New Hope at number 3, Empire at number 2, and Return of the Jedi at number 1.
My man, so, that's a good solid list. I think I had Return of the Jedi at number 1 and Empire number 2, and then Rogue One 3 as well. So it's interesting. Isn't it interesting how Rogue One is really high up on a lot of people's lists now. It's done really well. What you said, Brian, about The Last Jedi, I think you absolutely are correct. Is that especially with episode 9 coming out and what they're going to do there, I do think it will age very well. And just like, I mean, look at the prequels, right? We had so many people had problems with the prequels, but look at where they are. You know, people love the prequels now. And so it's time, right? Time heals all wounds. And I think that's what's going to end up happening with that as well. But yeah, sorry to take us off topic.
The one benefit of having now we're going to have 2 podcast episodes a month. We're going to have 2 Scavengers Assemble episodes per month. We're also going to have the Rogue One Sith. Sith, that was another one that we talked about. We're going to have slip of the tongue on that one. Yeah. And we've got Rogue One 6th. That's a tongue twister there, Matt. But anyway, so up to 5 episodes per month. Inevitably, we're going to talk some of the same stuff. But one of the benefits is there's nobody has any like claim to like, oh, I'm talking about this, nobody else can. We all have different opinions. We all have different interests and takes. So I did want to kind of run through the news. And now I know Steve really led the conversation with our larger, some of our listeners on the last group chat, and which is great. But I know Chris and I only popped on for a few minutes. Weekends or Friday nights and Saturday nights are tough for me. Matt, I know you joined that. You also joined PJ's chat on his channel Saturday night, which was great, by the way. So let's just run down.
It was a lot. Let me tell you, like I talked with all the people at the Scavengers Assemble, which was really fun. The next night we did, the next day I did Rogue One 6 with Roy. And then I did PJ's hangout, which was awesome, talking with PJ and Steve and Ryan. It's just a lot. There is a lot to talk about, but once you start talking through it, man, there's a whole lot going on right now.
Matt, I noticed that you needed a wardrobe change in between recordings there.
I know. Did you notice that? I noticed that afterwards. I was like, man, I wish I would have thought about that, because that would have been the ultimate, like, it just would have been the right thing to do. Go change my shirt. But I'm not that.
Just giving you grief.
I'm not that up on it.
All right, guys, let's talk news. And because Matt, you're with the Star Wars focus, this is going to be in no real particular order, but I did want to start with Obi-Wan. And on April 4th in Hong Kong, we finally got the much anticipated release. I mean, I would say out of a lot of the Star Wars figures that have been previously announced and up for pre-order, this is the one that I think people wanted probably one of the most, and especially going back to some of that prequel love there. So we got both the deluxe version and the standard version. So it was MMS 477 and 478. Standard one, 235. The deluxe one with 274, which has little baby Luke and a hologram table and stuff. Now, this is one I originally had on pre-order before I kind of shifted focus there. But Matt, I do know that this is one that you had. And, just in general, what was your take about what we saw from basically the final product?
I'm really frustrated with how they took pictures of the final product with Obi-Wan. They spare no expense when it comes to Iron Man. Iron Man gets all the nice pictures and all the bloggers go like nuts on it. And I don't know if that's because in China, like, Star Wars isn't huge over there. And so maybe they just have trouble finding people that are going to get it and take pictures of it. I don't know. I just know that the pictures that we got with Obi-Wan just were very just lacking, like just not that great. And so, of course that means that some of the lighting is going to be a little bit off, and people are going to start talking about the head sculpt, because anytime there's a bit of a lighting issue with some of these pictures, the head sculpts start to not look exactly like the person or like the original, prototype. And so until you get it in hand, you're going to, all of a sudden it's going to change, and you're going, oh, okay, this looks great. And I've seen a lot of reviews, a lot of in-hand reviews, and it looks fantastic. Like, it looks really good. I think they did a really good job. It's not, of course, it's not exactly the same as the prototype. When are they ever? But it looks really, really good. I personally didn't get the deluxe version. I got the normal version because I don't see myself posing him with the baby or with the table. And I know the table actually takes like 3 AA's, I think it takes underneath. So I think there's 3 AA's that go in there, and then you can turn it on. And anytime you dealing with batteries and switches and stuff, I'm not a huge fan of kind of setting my figures up that way. Do you guys put batteries in your stuff at all?
No, I don't. So a couple things you've said here, Matt. Like number one, you said you like Back to the Future, and you're a man after my own heart because you don't like to put batteries in figures either. So I know why we all get along here so well. I completely agree. So in talking to our cohort, Roy, a couple things that as I've gotten to know him a lot better, I'm kind of learning some things from him. I'm trying to make it an effort to learn some Dutch, just because I figure I'd be a good friend. Like, his English is not, it's his second language. And you wouldn't know that. I mean, he says, oh, I got an accent and stuff. It's no big deal. But the other thing too, is just he was on a couple episodes ago talking about photography stuff. And I actually had said that same thing, Matt, on when we usually repost the Hot Toys posts on Facebook into our group. And then we have people on our group will go chat back and forth about it. And I made that same comment. I was like, the lighting just looks very off. And then Roy came in and he's like, I'm so proud of you. And that was great. But yeah, it's just funny because you look at it and you're like, God, I'm a horrible photographer, like complete amateur. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, I could have done better than that. I mean, come on. You're trying to sell number one, you're a toy manufacturer. It is a high-end collectible, but you're trying to sell figures to make money. The reason why you produce them in the first place is not because you love it. I mean, you do make them because you love it, but you also want to make some money because otherwise you're like me. You hate money.
Yeah, exactly. No, and listen, I know we're going to be talking about the Mark 50, but the Mark 50 pictures are incredible. Like when I first saw those come out, I was like, I know it's Iron Man. So I feel like with Iron Man, you can actually make Iron Man, especially without seeing the head sculpt and the mask down, you can make Iron Man look real. Like he's actually in a photo, like in any situation, like they can Photoshop him and make him look so good. But like, come on, you can't put at least somewhat the same amount of effort into something that you want to sell to as many people as you possibly can. Like, I know I'm pretty sure there's people that canceled their pre-order because they didn't like what it ended up looking like. And, you just have to make sure you're understanding that the lighting matters, that the angles of the pictures matter. And it sucks, but until you get it in hand, you're really not going to know what it is at the end.
It's tough. I do wonder what the choices are with the photographers from going from Star Wars to Marvel with Hot Toys. I don't know if it's a licensing thing. I don't know if, it's something else, but it is a shame that they don't quite give the love to those Star Wars figures as they do to some of these Marvel figures.
Yeah, it makes me sad.
You did mention it, Matt. So affectionately, the Mark 50 in our group has affectionately been called the Mark L. It's all one word. Some of the early reviews actually called it, reading from the box, like the Mark L, and it's like, come on, it's not the Mark L, it's Mark 50. So that'll always be, when Chris and I eventually review that figure, when we have it in hand, it'll be the Mark L. But we did finally get that on April 1st. It was not an April Fool's joke. That was one that we've talked many times on this podcast and all our other shows and stuff as well, that really needed to come out before Endgame, because we knew we were going to start getting the figure that we're going to talk about in just a minute, because you don't want people to cancel pre-orders. I mean, you want people to, you want people to get it. They want to enjoy it. And for people that like to have one version of a figure, next time you have something else that comes in that's new and shiny, we'll talk about that in a little bit with Thanos. It's like,
yeah,
we're scavengers for a reason here. We don't have infinite budgets. We're not out buying every single figure to review them. And we have to make very sound choices. I mean, one of the reasons why Chris and I do the collection update all the time is so people will see, like, there's a lot of decisions that have to be made. I mean, we've each given up some non-refundable deposits in the past. I made some boneheaded decisions. I've made hopefully some good decisions, but that part of the collecting thing is, I think, why people like our content and stuff, because we do come off as genuine as possible. We're not here to sell anything. I mean, this is our own hard-earned money. We all work hard for it, and we want to enjoy it, and we enjoy talking about it, and we enjoy producing content so other people can enjoy us talking about it.
Yeah. And no one's sending you guys figures to review or to look at.
Absolutely
that's not happening.
But Sideshow, if you are listening, please feel free.
Exactly. No, hey, quick question though. Do you guys think that Hot Toys, how do I put this? Do you think Hot Toys has a choice? Right? Can they wait? In the sense that, like,
I don't think they can.
I'm just wondering if Disney, it actually has something in some sort of contract or something where they actually can't wait. Because I mean, if you think about it, like, why would you come out with some of this stuff before the other stuff has released, or at least, it's just tough to make sense of it. I don't really get it.
Yeah, definitely. So Chris, this was the MMS 473 D23 for Diecast 23, retailing for 407. This is one that a lot of people already have in hand. The early reviews are pretty positive, and I know both you and I are getting this, and really looking forward to that.
Yeah, gonna have to wait a couple months for those payment plans. But
payment plans are a savior.
Yes.
How many Ironmans do you guys have?
I have 10 currently, and I think I have another 4 on the way. So pretty, yeah.
Wow. When did you get into Iron Man? Like, when did that happen?
That's like 3 weeks ago.
That wasn't super long ago, right?
No, it's probably this late this fall.
Savage just went for it.
Yeah, you know what? Why not? So, yeah, but they get into, like, we talked about it last episode too, like, kind of like that, the opportunity cost of, like, the more you wait on something that you can already see the trends that are going up now, the more you wait, it becomes less advantageous to, it's just going to keep going up. I mean, the one right now that's going through the roof, that's kind of, I don't think it's quite reached like the Mark 47 levels in the aftermarket, but Chris, the Mark 5 right now is approaching 7, if not higher for, I mean, people are just now, well, that's the point too, is as we talk about this stuff and there's new collectors that come in and they're like, oh, I love Iron Man. I love Iron Man 2. That's a great scene. I'm going to go get that figure. And then, like, their eyes just pop out of their head. Like, I got to pay double for what it originally retailed for. And I think that's just the one thing that you can't really hesitate on this stuff. There are times that figures come out and they sit and you can come get them afterwards, or you can get, scoop a good eBay deal or something like that. But, the characters that are popular and then also scarce because people don't sell them often, I mean, those are the ones that go through the roof.
Well, and we've mentioned this before, haven't we, that the nightmare scenario is for me is getting into collecting too late. Because let's say you got into collecting like right now and you had to go back and get all the, and you're an Iron Man fan and you have to go back and get all the Iron Mans, like, the amount of money you have to spend to go back when you get into any kind of collecting, if you want to catch up, is crazy. Like, that's very prohibitive to getting into something sometimes. So you can't just think like, oh yeah, I'm just going to hop in and I'm just going to start collecting, because you're going to start collecting something, right, that you really like, and all of a sudden you're going to look back and go, man, that DX07 looks really good, but let me check out. Let me see what it's going on eBay, and then that's what happens.
Yeah, we talked about it quite a bit. It's really difficult to navigate through this area of collecting, and that's why we have these different topics to try to help collectors maybe focus in on what really matters to them and find a direction. Because if you try to jump in with both feet, forget about it. I mean, you are going to be dead broke in short order. So it's like, I didn't go backwards with my Iron Man figures. Every one that I've gotten so far has been when it was available at Sideshow. And I'm glad I got them when I could, 4, 5, and 6. And they're great. And especially that 5, man, that was looking like a really good choice. And I think the biggest thing, I mean, the figure looks cool, but it's such a niche scene that I think that's why things have gone crazy with it. Cause people are like, he's only in one scene. Why do I need that? And then the rest is history.
Can you I like Marvel, but I'm not like, hardcore. So like, what scene is the Mark 7 in?
The Mark 7?
Yeah.
That's
maybe the Mark 5
or whatever. Yeah, whatever
Yeah.
Mark we're talking. There's too many Marks. I can't sort them out.
there's
So
only like 85 of that.
It's ridiculous. Whatever
No,
Mark we're talking about.
Yeah, no, Mark 5 was in the F1 race car scene in Iron Man 2 when Whiplash comes
right.
out. And
Is that the suitcase one?
yeah,
where he like
suitcase armor, yeah.
Yep.
okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't like the one. I don't like the look of that one for some reason.
The engineering on the figure itself is just it's incredible here. So, all right, guys, we got plenty more figures to talk about here. Let's get going here. So we'll kind of go rapid fire here. So we did get another Neon Tech Iron Man. We don't have a lot of details about this other than the name Neon Tech Iron Man 2.0. Instead of the Mark IV, which the original Neon one, was black and blue, this is black and yellow. So they're going for that Tron look again. Scheduled release Q3, Q4, 2019. We know the MMS number. It's MMS 523 D29 for Diecast 29. This looks like it's going to be at that pop-up store for Hot Toys that they're doing in Japan. I have a feeling that this one will be available in limited quantities on Sideshow later this year, probably later this summer, early fall. I don't know if it'll be at, like, say, San Diego Comic-Con, but maybe it'll show up at, like, New York Comic-Con or something. Maybe one of the small, well, New York Comic-Con's not really that small, but it'll be available probably on another one, on a limited basis. And, the funny thing, a lot of people scooped up that original Mark IV Neon Tech one, and I think people were hoping to flip it because it looked scarce because they were giving away the coupon codes and stuff. And I've seen people barely trying to make back what it cost at retail. I think people kind of overinflated what they thought the value of that figure would be. And some of the initial ones did sell for really good, but a lot of them are just sitting around now. So it's just something to keep in mind if you do decide to chase this down. This one might be a little bit more exclusive because it's, it could be potentially just an overseas figure, but I don't know. Chris, what are your thoughts?
Definitely a pass for me, but it is cool. I don't know. It's a different option. People were, thinking of pairing them up, maybe on a Tron cycle or something like that. But I just, it's not really my cup of tea. And like you, I'm more for the suits that actually made appearances in the film, in the MCU, not these concept ones. But I mean, I know Matt's excited that there's another Iron Man option out there for people.
Well, there's another Iron Man out there too. So now we get into, we all speculated April 1st was going to be when we were going to start seeing these contractually, going back to what we just talked about, that, Disney would start allowing merchandisers and people to start showing some of the products that were going to be from the movie, because we're basically 2 weeks out and we still don't know a whole lot about this film. But I'm going to group these all together. We did on March 30th, on a Saturday, no less, we got announcements for Thanos armored version from Avengers Endgame, MMS 529, going to retail for $415, projected release January to March 2020. And then the same day, we got that Mark 85 that we talked about a little bit, also announced on that March 30th. The retail price of that is going to be $423, and that's looking at a July to September 2020 release. So that one's pretty far out, especially in relation to Thanos. Both of them did go up for pre-order on that Monday on Sideshow. So we kind of, I think this is the first time I've seen, since I've been really focused in on collecting this stuff, that we got news over a weekend and then it took until the following Monday for it to go up on Sideshow. And then another figure, and Chris, this is the one that's kind of near dear to your heart. We finally got a Nebula. So on April 4th, late on a Thursday night, we got the announcement of that. It kind of leaked on social media first and then got announced. It's about 9:30 Eastern time, so it'd be 6:30 Pacific time. They showed the figure and it went up for pre-order the following day on Sideshow. MMS 534, retailing for $235. And I didn't see, Chris, when was that one going to projected to come out?
Okay, so Nebula is estimated to come out April of 2020 to June of 2020. So we've got a full year at least for her to come out.
So the thing about this too, guys, is, and I checked with various different some of our listeners across the globe, and the announcement on this Saturday, I think it actually crashed the Hot Toys website. You could not get on and see any of the images for this, and it took several hours for it to get back up and running. That's how much craziness there is for Avengers, Hot Toy collecting for Marvel stuff, people just wanting anything, any nugget of information about this movie, the 20-second film of this insane arc that I don't know if we'll ever see something like this again. Hopefully Star Wars can do it. But yeah, Chris, yeah, Nebula has been a figure that a lot of people have wanted for quite some time, and really either wanted her Guardians 1 or 2 version, and we finally got it. And it wasn't even the Infinity War. She wasn't really in Infinity War all that much, but here we are, and we've got the release everybody was looking for.
I think a lot of people were speculating that she was going to be a figure that wasn't going to make the cut just because she's such a niche character, but who knows what her role is going to be going into Endgame and through that story. I'm thinking she's going to have a much bigger role, but yeah, it's just a great figure. She was number 1 on my want list as far as characters that I really think needed to be made. So yeah, I'm really excited for her. I mean, she was a day 1 pre-order, D1 PO. So yeah, I'm pretty excited.
Well, if you follow the comics back in the Infinity Gauntlet comic, like she was pretty central to that storyline. I don't know how faithful they'll be to that or not, but yeah. So this one, I know that I know Steve had found some things, and they talked about it on the Hangout of some nitpicky things about that. I think they'll fix it before this one releases. And
the demand for this, like you were talking about before, did you notice that it's already gone on Big Bad Toy Store? Like, I'm pretty sure the pre-orders like already sold out. And then I've heard that it's sold out in a couple other places as well. So it's the demand. I mean, it's one of those figures that they're not going to make. I don't think they're going to make a Nebula again, right? It's kind of like Yondu. Yondu went, pretty quick and for good reason. It's an amazing figure, but they're not going to make a Yondu again. It's just not going to happen. So it looks like a really cool figure with a couple things that, like you said, they're going to fix, a couple nitpicky things, but they'll adjust it.
So I think the one thing that'll make this one different from Yondu is I think Yondu, not a lot of people pre-ordered it, and then people got it in hand and said, we've talked about this before, to use Chris's term, it's amazing. And I think once people had it in hand and they couldn't pre-order it anymore because it already had been released in Hong Kong, and I think that kind of led to the shortage. I think the opposite will happen with Nebula. I think that the demand is there, but they still have the opportunity to make as many figures as they need to, or as many figures as they decide to. So, if you're sitting here,
you think they'll make more than the Yondu?
I think they will. I think we've never seen production runs or what those look like, but my cautionary tale to our listeners is don't listen to this and say, oh, well, this could be Yondu and I could pick one up and then maybe sell for double. The one thing I would caution is, although it's sold out in a couple different locations, they could always make as many as they need to, and don't just pick it up because I'm gonna look to resell it, because the people that want it might pre-order it, and then there might not be a heck of a demand afterwards because everybody that wanted it already has it in hand, and then you could be looking at a figure that you might not be able to get back what you paid for. That reselling game is just very dangerous. I'm not a big proponent of it, so I would just exercise caution about that. Even though people are really excited about it, I think they're excited about it at the right time versus next April when they're excited about it and the supply is already going to be what it is. There will be a finite number as opposed to right now. I mean, Hot Toys could make 1 million figures out if they wanted to. They won't, but just be careful with that.
Really would love to know how many figures are made for each Hot Toy. I mean, I know we haven't been able to really nail that down in any way, but man, it'd be really interesting to find out.
Yeah,
why do they decide certain figures get more runs? Yeah, it's just interesting.
He keeps things really close to the chest as far as anything behind the scenes. So, we get these little videos here and there, and it's kind of like, wow, we're actually seeing production of some of these figures. It's just, I don't think we're ever going to see the numbers, but it would be really interesting to see where, the production numbers are for a lot of these figures.
I mean, JC Hong actually on Instagram had an unpainted sculpt of Nebula. You never see that.
No.
True.
And that stuff really, I know Allison and Mila and all those individuals that get into the customizing and that sort of thing. But for me, I really enjoy the prototype, that whole production process with these figures. And I like seeing that stuff, even though I don't dabble in any real customizing as far as, what goes into producing these figures. But I just like seeing that stuff. And I have a lot of friends that are into the Star Wars pre-production collecting, and it would just be really cool if some of that stuff was made available to collectors. But no, it's great to see that sort of thing. And I really hope that we get more of that going forward.
All right, guys, just a couple quick hits before we get to a collection update and then pepper Chris with questions about Celebration prep. So we did get a look at the Captain America new costume in Endgame. It showed up in a promotional image of both that included both Thanos and Iron Man's Mark 85. It's inevitable that that's going to come out pretty soon. So just stay tuned for that. Another thing that kind of got teased a little bit on social media, kind of very similarly than Nebula did, was the new War Machine from Endgame. But that one hasn't, as of the time of us recording here on April 9th in the evening, that hasn't actually come out. I would anticipate that both those figures will come out probably before, they'll probably be pre-order announced before the film comes out in just about 2 weeks from now. And then finally, Chris, I know that we've been trying to give like updates on waitlisted things. I did notice that the Iron Man Mark IV without the suit up gantry is now waitlisted on Sideshow. So that one took a little bit longer than I thought would. It's a fantastic figure. I think that one's another one down the road that could have, some pretty decent demand just because of the engineering and the look on that one.
Like you, I definitely thought that was going to go waitlisted a lot quicker. I got mine in December and I was like, this thing's going waitlist like as soon as I order this thing. But no, I mean, we're into April but it's good. It's good to see Sideshow selling out of these figures. There's still a lot of figures that they have in stock.
Do you think they still have some Stormtroopers in stock?
Just a few. They've got a freaking warehouse.
They're gonna start. They're gonna start including those as throw-ins.
Exactly. There's like, and you get a free First Order Stormtrooper.
Pre-order a Count Dooku, get a First Order Stormtrooper. Pre-order Yoda. Oh, here's 2 Stormtroopers.
Exactly.
I think they did, to Hot Toys credit, I think they learned their lesson on that. I think the ones they did for Rogue One were in much better taste. I think for The Last Jedi, the Praetorian Guards, those sold really well. I think it had a smaller run, but I think the people that got them liked them. I think Raul in our group has one. I saw him posting about one of those recently. So, I think for the nicher figures, the smaller runs and stuff like that, they can still make good figures. They're not going to sell as much as a Luke Skywalker, a Darth Vader, Iron Man, etc.
Yeah, I mean they did make, look at Solo. Look at they made the patrol trooper that showed up in the movie like what a second, 2 seconds in the movie. So like they're still gonna make some of those things, but there's still a huge demand for stormtroopers. People really like stormtroopers of any kind, but they just really went overboard with those first order ones.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
All right, Chris, let's do a quick collection update and then get into our topic and then get to Matt's review. So collection update wise, both of us strictly just pre-orders this time. Where'd you start out with, Chris?
Okay, so I said it earlier, Nebula, absolutely. She was must have day one pre-order. Yeah, I had to have her. And then also kind of going back on some things I said in earlier episodes that I would probably not get this, but I ended up pre-ordering the Mark L accessory pack. The Mark 50 accessory pack. Because what really got me thinking was you guys' conversations about breaking up that set. So, and I had I think it was a $20 gift card that was going around, and then I used rewards points to bring that overall cost down quite a bit. So I'm gonna, when that comes in, I'm gonna decide what I want to keep, 2, 3, 4 items or whatever, maybe, and then try to piece out the rest and, you know, recoup some of that investment.
It's a good idea.
But,
it's, I just wanted to interject here too. So I know I had thrown that out on both our group, and I think I've mentioned it on a prior show that we had done. You know, I'd thrown it out and said, hey, email me if you're interested. You know, I'll just see. And it was funny because, like, I think there was 3 or 4 people in the group that said, hey, I'm interested. But it was funny because everybody wanted like the same things. They wanted like the helmet and the shield, and I think one of the arm blades. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, well, if I was to get one of these and piece it out, I'm gonna get stuck with the stuff that like nobody's gonna want. It's not gonna probably sell all that well on eBay. So, but you know, you've got the right approach, Chris, because there is things that you want specifically, and you'll be able to potentially sell. So I would say look to the group first. Maybe look to a close friend that might live, you know, not that far away, and we'll see if we can work out a deal. But yeah, I would say that that's definitely the way to go, is because you're never going to display everything with those. And, you know, it could be a good thing to do. But I think like right now, when I just kind of, and I didn't promise anybody that I was going to do it. I just wanted to see, like, I'm curious, like if I was going to do this, like what would people want? And it was like, everybody wanted the helmet. Everybody wanted the shield. I'm like, well, I'm not going to buy 3 of these things. That's ludicrous. But anyway, sorry for the little side tangent there.
How about you, man?
All right, so I was, my day one pre-order was the Iron Man Mark 85. I mean, that was a no-brainer on that one whatsoever. And then, so I ventured off, and I didn't get a chance to mention it on the last Hangout, and I know Steve didn't have the opportunity to kind of say, hey, everybody, what'd you get recently? So I'm kind of venturing off a little bit from Hot Toys, but it's still kind of on the higher end scale, I guess I would say, not necessarily 6 scale, but the new Bumblebee figure from 3A, their new DLX line. Basically, it's like an 8-inch version of the figure. But I absolutely love that film. My son, who's 7, adores Transformers. Everything's Transformers. So, you know, if I can have something else in my collection that I can enjoy as well, and he will, I wanted to go for that. And again, that one sold out quite a bit overseas and stuff. That one is still available for pre-order through Sideshow. So I went ahead and did that. And then, Chris, you mentioned some of those coupons and stuff floating around. So I went ahead and did some other things. I went ahead and finally redid Getting Surrey, because that was one that I just wish I would never have originally canceled the pre-order. And I've got that coming. And then I said I was going to do it a while ago. I decided I was going to do it, but getting the standard version of Captain Marvel, so to potentially display one with her helmet on and one without next to each other. And if worst comes to worst, because I kind of now wish I would have just originally gone for the standard versus the deluxe that had the Goose the Cat and her leather jacket there. I may end up just deciding to sell that once I actually have it in hand, but I'll give myself the option of potentially displaying both.
Very cool. Not too many figures that you buy multiples of, but Captain Marvel's definitely one that gives you that.
It's just a very distinct. It's just a very distinct look. It's not like getting like 2 Captain Americas and then, you know, it's kind of going to be the same figure, but you can have a different aesthetic for both. And I just love the character, and that suit design is awesome. So,
well, Shuri, the head sculpt on Shuri is just outrageous. It's just so good.
Yeah.
Every time I see, I think I've seen the JC Hong one where he's holding her. It looks like he's ripped her head off her body and he's holding it. It's crazy. It looks incredible.
Finish her.
Yeah. They nailed Letitia Wright's likeness. I can't wait. Cannot wait for that figure.
Yeah. Matt, you pick anything up?
Thank the good Lord I didn't. No, I've been trying to stay after getting Chirrut and the Shore Trooper. I needed to take a minute and reassess my life my choices in life. And so I've been looking at a lot of. Mine's been kind of going towards posters lately with some stuff. So I've been picking up some Star Wars prints that I kind of want to throw up in some areas. But other than that, I've been pretty good, which is good. I mean, just been paying my monthly dues to Sideshow for all the things I want to get, and that's about it.
So what do you got? If you don't mind me asking, what do you have on pre-order coming up?
Oh my goodness. I haven't mentioned this to anybody yet, but I looked at you know how you can go to Sideshow and look at the calendar and see when your pre-orders are going to come out. I almost threw up when I saw my list that was coming out this month. It was like there was like 4 or 5 figures or something that were going to be coming out, like just you know, the standard payments for them, and I was just like, my God, what have I done? And so I think one of them, I think the quarter scale Vader, Obi-Wan, I got 2 of the Stormtroopers, Return of the Jedi ones coming coming eventually, and then I think Count Dooku is one of them, and then I believe at some point in this month is going to be Darth Maul as well. So there's a lot that's happening, and it's you know, I'm just trying to keep it quiet so my wife doesn't find out, because it's gonna be
you're in a safe space here, Matt. We're not here to judge.
Yeah,
we are scavengers.
Just in case she's at the door listening, and just, you know. So anyway,
if we don't hear from you again after this little chat, it was nice. It was nice knowing you.
Exactly. You know what happened.
Good stuff. Yep. All right, Chris, I know you're getting on a jet plane tomorrow to head to Chicago, to use Matt and Roy's term, the Windu City.
Windu City.
So, yeah. I mean, I know that you're going down with, you know, with one of the local, you know, collector groups, but I mean, man, just to start it off, I think Matt and I are extremely jealous and
extremely jealous.
I know. I won't rub it in too much, but I will be hanging out with all the celebrities and
of course.
Yeah, no, totally
VIP.
Not going to happen at all. No, I had the opportunity to help out with the Northeast Star Wars Collectors Club booth and got hooked up with an exhibitor pass through them. And so I'll be helping out shifts here and there throughout the 5-day show. And yeah, so the exhibitor pass really is what got me pretty excited. I talked about it on one of the Assemble Hangouts, but it's going to allow me to get into the convention an hour early. I don't have to wait in the lines. I can stay an hour late. And it's just going to allow me to spend more time in the convention. The one drawback is it doesn't allow you to get the exclusives. So you can't get any of the exclusive figures or any of the prints. I can't get into the panels using it.
What?
So the major panels anyway. I get into any of the smaller ones, but
okay.
So that's the drawback. And you know, I jumped in to a few. Well, they're doing the panels different this year. They're doing lotteries, and you have to put in your code and your email address, and we'll find out on Thursday whether or not people get in. And
that seems like a lot better system, though, Chris. I've heard some crazy stories of people like staying all night or longer.
Yeah. So they're not doing overnight queuing this time around. I think the earliest you can line up is like 5 or 6 in the morning. So it'll at least help with that aspect. And the McCormick Place in Chicago is absolutely gigantic. I've been to Chicago several times, and it's, I think, at least the biggest convention center in the Midwest. I think it's potentially the biggest one in North America. So we're hoping that everything is spread out really well and that the lines are set up really appropriately. But you just never know with ReedPop, the way hopefully they learned from Orlando. We heard a lot of horror stories from Celebration Orlando with volunteers not knowing what was going on and people being directed to the wrong doors and then completely losing their place after waiting in line for like 4 hours and stuff like that. So fingers crossed that doesn't happen. But anyway, I'm just psyched.
You should be. You should be psyched. What day does it start, Chris? Officially?
So it starts on Thursday, and It starts at 1 p.m. and I think it goes till 8 o'clock Thursday. And then it continues throughout the weekend and ends on Monday. It ends on Monday, I think around 3 or 4 in the afternoon. But there's a major panel every day, and there's smaller panels. I was looking at the schedule. It's insanity how much stuff is going on. Anything you could possibly think of related to Star Wars, from vintage collecting, modern collecting. You've got podcasts left and right from all over the world on the podcast stage. You've got costuming, you've got design, you've got just every aspect, Lego, just anything you could think of. There's stuff to do there, and photo ops and autographs from a lot of the actors and people involved with the movies. And I don't know. I'm overwhelmed. I haven't even gotten there yet. So
well, and for all the people that like us, that like Brian and I and everyone else that's, wish we could be there. They are going to be streaming the main panels, I believe. I think it's from StarWarsCelebration.com or something like that, or maybe it's StarWars.com or Star Wars.
I think their YouTube
is a YouTube channel.
Yep.
They're gonna stream all the main sessions. I don't know how much it'll be, like if they'll do any of the more minor ones, but like at least the main ones we get to kind of join along, as well, which would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I think as far as all the different panels goes, I'm pretty sure almost everything is going to be available through YouTube in some capacity. And from what I hear, that people at home following along with everything usually find out things before the people at the convention, because there's just too much to take in. And it's like squirrel, you're shiny penny, you're going from one thing to the other. And so what I'm doing, I'm staying at the McCormick Place, the Hyatt right there.
Oh wow.
And so that way I don't really have to venture out too much, but we do have some things planned. There's one of the first Star Wars podcasts. It's the Star Wars Collectors Archive Party, and it's the Kivecast, which is their podcast name. They're doing a party, which I was lucky enough to be a sponsor for, and that is going to be Thursday night. And that's going to be a charity event to benefit local shelters for dogs and cats in the Chicago area. And I'm really looking forward to that. A lot of major vintage collectors in the community are going to be there. Gus Lopez, who is the creator of the Collectors Archive and one of the most well-known collectors out there, he'll be there. And
Christopher James Leddy will be there.
Oh yeah.
So
that's right.
go meet
come
Chris.
Look for me. No, well, the big thing is I'm just really excited to meet other collectors that I've been interacting with over the years. And, some of my fellow Rebel Commando Focus collectors. I've met my good buddy Stephen Ward in person. He came to New Hampshire last year briefly, but my buddy Justin Rowland. So I'm rooming with him. I'm looking forward to that. And then PJ is going to be there, the Paradox Nerd. Yeah. Really looking forward to hanging out with him, walking around the floor together, seeing if there's any deals on any hot toys,
oh man.
Yeah, I know.
you need to make sure you hit me up if you see any interesting things.
Oh yeah,
Star Wars
I'll be doing the passes through every single day. And so Friday night there's an event in the hotel which is called the Room Sales, and that's where the dealers and the vendors and the collectors bring out the real deal Holyfield type stuff. It is like prototype, pre-production, super rare foreign items. Stuff you can't even think of. I wouldn't be surprised if I see a Rocket Fire Boba Fett and just anything like that. So that's what I'm looking forward to as well. I can't hang with these guys, financially, but it's really cool. I'm going to be taking tons of pictures. I'm hoping to do some short little interviews here and there with some collectors, and hopefully we can put out that content on Rogue One 6th. And maybe if I do get enough interviews, we'll try to put a little compilation thing together in audio form. But other than that, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully I can do some live streams, maybe.
Make sure you film the floor too, because it'd be fun to show people the kind of some of that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll just be filming with my camera phone, so it's not going to be 4K stuff, but I think people will get the gist of it. And yeah, I'm just really excited. Obviously, I mean, it's a great opportunity. I was bummed out in 2017 to not be able to go to Orlando. It just was not going to work. I know at the time we were all trying to figure out how we could get there, and it's not easy, especially with trying to get a press pass or get on the podcast stage. Lucasfilm they were really selective with who they picked for the podcast. I got to give it to all those individuals that got selected. I'm looking forward to meeting the guys from Unmistakably Star Wars and the Vintage Rebellion and Fantha Tracks, and just trying to see them in person and just hang out and have a good time. I mean, that's what Star Wars Celebration is all about.
Sounds awesome, man.
Yeah, really good cool stuff. Looking forward to hearing about it, and we'll certainly be no shortage of content that we'll be able to talk about that for quite a long time. I mean, it's a once. I'd like to say it's it's not necessarily a once in a lifetime experience, but for most of us, it kind of is. So
yeah.
It's definitely something to to definitely enjoy. So. All right, so we've got our feature figure review here. We are looking at Chirrut Îmwe MMS 403, the deluxe version from Star Wars Rogue One, originally retailed for $244.99. The original pre-order date of this was November 29th, 2016, so prior to the release of the film. And this one had a really short turnaround. It is actually available in Hong Kong on March 27th, 2017, so a short, basically 4 or 5 months apart. I know Roy has done really good work on his own database on, kind of that initial pre-order date to when it's released in Hong Kong. And I'm sure this is one of the shortest ones I've seen. So Matt, we did want to get your opinion on this. This is a figure. I know this will probably make you weep a little bit. I did have in my collection and ended up, selling it not that long ago. I do miss it a little bit. It's a fantastic figure, but just overall, Matt, what are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, it's really good. So I didn't pick this guy up because I really, really, really like Rogue One. It's one of my favorite Star Wars movies, and really love K2SO and Jyn. I have both of those figures, and I started wanting to collect more of the Rogue One line. And so I looked into it, and obviously I had a really tough time getting a Shore Trooper. And so once I was able to kind of track some of that stuff down, Chirrut was kind of like always there, and I've always been a little bit concerned that all of a sudden I'm going to see a Baze pre-order go up, and I'm going to have to like scramble to get my Chirrut Îmwe like from somewhere. And so I just decided to pull the trigger, and I found, obviously people always put codes, eBay codes into Facebook, and it makes you feel horrible when everyone else is saying, I bought this, and you're like, I think I might have to buy something. So I went and looked around and found Chirrut for a pretty good price. And originally I thought the price was good enough, especially with the code, that I was like, man, this is great. And so when I ordered it, I think I got it from Tencent, and it got here, no problems. I opened it up and I saw all the stuff that came with it, and I was like, I think I've got the deluxe version. I didn't even know I got the deluxe version, because normally I don't use the base, all the bases that come with the figures, because I use a different base for mine. But the more I looked at it, the more I'm really happy I got the deluxe, because the base is really, really nice. I wasn't expecting it to be that nice. And it comes with the Stormtrooper helmet, and the base has like all the little like fern like things that come out of the ground, and like the little I think it's like a little pond thing that he's standing near. It's really cool looking, and it just kind of makes you feel like he's on that beach. and it's really, really, really nice figure. The head sculpt is beautiful. It's almost exactly like him. It's crazy. And he comes with a decent amount of accessories, like comes with his staff and what's that big gun he has?
Like they call it on the site like a holding crossbow. So
yeah. Really nice, really nice. You can kind of put that over his, over his shoulders and kind of have that on his back. And it's a really, really nice figure. It goes really well with some of the other Rogue One figures. And honestly, like I've said this before, but like Star Wars figures lack color. There's a lot of like whites and blacks and dark greens and, browns and stuff in Star Wars figures. There's not a lot of really good colors like Marvel has. And Chirrut has a nice, he has a nice red to some of his clothing. And it's just nice. It's a good little, it's a nice figure that kind of pops out a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree. So when I had that myself in hand too, I know what you're talking about with that red underneath. It kind of really pops because his normal robe is like more of like a dark blue. So that's even a color that you don't often see, right, in those Star Wars figures. And overall, it is a really great figure. I know we're kind of just glossing over things here. We again going back to what I said earlier, we work really hard for our money. We're gonna say these figures are great.
Yeah.
As you've come to know about the podcast, Matt, we come up with really obscure rating systems to talk about these. But I didn't have the deluxe myself. I guess when I had gotten the standard version, but it had a lot of the same. Yeah. So you can get some really cool poses with a figure. I think, the material and stuff's flexible enough. I thought the detailing on that was really good. I feel like we're like little 1/6 tailors. I know Chris needs to send his stuff to the 1/6 dry cleaners, but
seriously.
Yeah.
Chris, have you been able to get your hands or at least see the figure?
I saw it at Brian's when he had it, and our other friend Jim, he's got it too. So I've seen it, a couple different collections, and man, I love the character. Donnie Yen does a great job as the character, and I think Hot Toys really nailed the likeness, the overall look of the figure, the fit and finish. Again, I mean, they knocked it out of the park. I don't think that they could have done any better of a job with this figure, honestly.
Yeah, and
let's his buddy.
Yeah, let's just hope that. Yeah, exactly. Let's hope they come out with a Baze, because that would be, man, what a great pair they would make, right? I can't see how. Look, them coming out with the Krennic gives me hope that, and they'll eventually come out with a Cyborg.
Well, what the one thing too is when people spam their message boards and on Facebook and stuff and ask for a particular figure, those are the ones they don't make.
Right. It's true.
That's the reason why we haven't seen Baze, because he's true. Right there with Where's Cyborg.
It's so sad. Yeah, but it'd be great companion piece with him. Right now I have mine's kind of figures displayed with my Short Trooper, and so they look really good together. But the whole Rogue One line, let's just say the whole Rogue One line is really, really, really good. They've put a lot of time and care into that line, and it's just a really beautiful line. I mean, all the Star Wars figures I like them all. So, but the Rogue One line is just really, really well done.
All right, Chris, let's do a rating system here. And I've been trying to think as Matt's been going over the figure here on some things. So I got something in mind, but I want to give you a crack at it as well.
I was going to say Kyber crystal necklaces, but I don't know. What were you thinking?
See, and this was going to be really obnoxious, but I was going to have Matt have to say the phrase, how many number of times would you say, I am one with the Force and the Force is with me? So I'm thinking I think that's what we're gonna do is how many on a scale of 1 to 5 the Force is with me and I'm one with the Force is Chirrut Îmwe, Matt.
Do I have to say that?
You don't have to say it 5. You don't have to say it 5 times.
Okay, good. I was gonna say
just how many statements of
I would say he's at least. Can you do halves?
Sure, why not? It's whatever we want it to be.
So he's 4. I'm one with the Force, and the Force is with me, and at half, I'm one with the Force. So 4.5, because I think I don't know. I don't know how they could make it better personally, right? Every time I look at these, I'm horrible rating these things because like they look fantastic. And what am I going to say? I don't know how they're going to fix them or do anything better, but he's really good, a really good figure. But yeah, I don't know how they could make it better, but I'd put him about 4.5. What about you guys?
That's what I would have probably done it as well. I think this is right around, so this came out the end of 2016, beginning of 2017. Shortly thereafter, I feel like really Hot Toys took another like evolutionary step forward with the quality of the head sculpts and stuff. I would personally love to see them take another crack at this because I think they could get even a little bit more detail. And I'm not saying this bad by any means, but when you look at some of the recent stuff, and I keep looking over here at my Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi, and just I can't get over how great that head sculpt is. It's just phenomenal, and they just keep getting better. So, but it's not. We're kind of doing like a retro review here because obviously this is a figure that you can still get, I'd say, fairly close to retail price on the secondary market, but definitely something that if you are a Star Wars fan and you are a fan of the film Rogue One, I think I would give my recommendation for it as well.
It's a great figure. Some really nice, especially if you have any of the other Rogue One figures. It's kind of a must. I hate saying a must because that means it makes people need to spend more money on something, but it is really nice to have with the other Rogue One figures.
All right, guys, I know we're running short on time here, and I just wanted to, before we get into our plugs here, Matt, I just wanted to personally thank you, A, for being part of the team, B, joining up, and with Roy coming up with the new Star Wars show that you've got, and for joining us tonight. I think it was a pretty good chat.
Yeah, I had a blast. Thank you guys for having me on. Anytime you would like me to talk about any of this stuff, I really enjoy it. And, thanks for letting us create a new show and kind of getting out there and doing some Star Wars content for the group. It's been really fun to put that together with Roy, and I'm excited to have you guys come on our show and talk about Star Wars. That would be really cool if that's possible at some point.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Especially after Celebration, we want to have Chris on, and then shortly after we want to have Brian and Steve on to do some chats about Star Wars.
All right. Absolutely good stuff, Matt. So, all right, let's go through our plugs. So we have our website, sixscalescavengers.com. We have our YouTube channel that we're really pushing lately. Steve and Roy have done awesome at not only getting more subscribers there, but making it look really professional. I mean, that's the best way I can put it. I mean, the artwork and stuff that Roy has done, and all the hard work Steve's putting in to make it really another avenue that we didn't have before is definitely appreciated. We have our TeePublic store. So thanks again to Roy. I mean, Roy, you're getting all the shout outs today, my friend, over in the Netherlands. But we have our TeePublic store. If you just look Six Scale Scavengers, Roy just went through and completely read out all of our logos, the hack ones that I had thrown together on a iOS app not that long ago. But we have some new shirts out there. I got to point out the day one pre-order one because that's phenomenal. There's already been quite a few people that have picked those up. And not only do you look cool when you wear it and you're able to represent our podcast and our Facebook group and YouTube channel and everything, but we also got a couple dollars that goes towards our hosting fees. And with all this content now, we're not going to hit people up for money, but if you're able to support us in ways like that, using the checklist that we have on our website, the eBay affiliate links and stuff like that, it helps us reduce the cost so we can keep doing this because we love doing it. We just want to cover cost if at all possible. All right. So we have our Facebook page. We have our presence on Instagram with Six Scale Scavengers. Again, we talk about often our pride and joy is our private group, Six Scale Scavenger Collectors. Join up there. Make sure you answer the questions. You're obviously listening to the podcast now, but we're also available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, and you want to grab the RSS feed at sixscalescavengers.libsyn.com. Maybe you've got an iOS app like I do, like iCatcher. You just search for the podcast there, add it, subscribe to it as new episodes are dropped. And we're going to have up to 5 episodes or more per month now. You definitely don't want to miss them and get them as soon as they drop. A couple shout outs to friends in the community. Again, we've mentioned him several times. He does great work. PJ the Paradox Nerd. Check out his YouTube channel, does video reviews for Hot Toys. I know Matt and Steve were both guests on his channel this past weekend. Good stuff there. Again, we've got to give shout outs, as we usually do, to Collecting Weekly Podcast, Zach, Dean, Jesse, Manny, and more. They do great stuff there. Check them out. If you love our content, you'll love theirs as well. And finally, John Martino was a guest on the most recent Scavengers Assemble. From Tashi Station 1/6 to Full Scale Collectors, have one of the best Facebook groups out there. They do great work, great positive community, and they do a lot of giveaways. They've got one going on right now for Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi. So check that one out, join up their group, and get in on their contest.
Oh, so many plugs. Love it. Love it. So just to cap this whole conversation off, if anybody wants to follow me and all my good times at Celebration, just follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Vintage Viewport, and I'll try to be posting stuff on the collecting group, the 6 Scale Scavengers collector group. So I hope to see any of our listeners there. Reach out. I've got some stickers to hand out, and it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, you're going to have a great time, my friend. I want to hear all about it. And again, just another great episode. Really appreciate having Matt in, and really looking forward to what they're going to be able to do with the new show, Rogue 1/6. So, Chris, I think it is that time. Why don't you bring it home for us?
Excelsior.